Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. So let's get going. Though it's going to take me a minute to switch modes. It's like a gestalt. I was sitting and listening to heavy metal whenever I'm feeling low. I listen to heavy metal or when I'm in pain, because it actually pumps up adrenaline, and nothing pumps up adrenaline like Metallica does, especially the song Turn the Page. It's not even their song, it's a song by Bob Seger. If you hear the original, you'll think somebody is playing a very, very poor version of Metallica's song. That's how Metallica has transformed it. Amazing song. It's good, really good when you have pain or you're down, because makes it pumps out adrenaline, and adrenaline is a painkiller. So it's established that heavy metal music can do this. Anyway, so shall we get going? I think we can.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I need a permission, otherwise I can't get going. That is my problem in life.
Yes, sir.
So we were doing Rousseau. We'll finish him today, this evening. All right, then. This is what we had done. So I'm not going to go over it again. I'll just say these things out aloud so as to get back to this. This triad, please remember, is very, very important because it's there in other thinkers as well, or other thinkers have adopted this triad as well in different ways. Um, so Rousseau believes that in family, there's love, um, there's bonding, and there should be, and there is no competitiveness, and The individual doesn't exist as an individual, but exists as a member of a larger unit. He exists as a member of the larger unit. In the second level, which is the bourgeois, I forgot to put civil in the bracket. Read it like that, put a civil in the bracket. Bourgeois society, alienation sets in due to individuals competing with each other for everything, and hence there are no social bonds. I've given you the example. If you want a job, if you want to write IAS like Akshay Puneet wants to, then you have potentially 250,000 competitors with whom you can't be friends, because each of those 250,000 people could take away that IAS position that Akshay Puneet wants. So you have the dissolution, not disillusion, dissolution of bonds. People are alienated from each other, and because of their being alienated from each other, I actually forgot to type that bit. I should have. Because of their being they're getting alienated, they become individualists, or they become individualistic, and therefore it is in the bourgeois society an individual thinks of only himself or herself. But women didn't count for much those days, so I guess it is safe to say himself. And it is, since it's also the realm of competition, there are no bonds between people, and so you have individualism. So this is actually what makes Rousseau very unique, because when we teach about individualism, we say that there's a paradigm shift. Okay, that there is a paradigm shift starting with Thomas Hobbes, passing through John Locke. We believe that individualism has set in. Liberalism is the dominant philosophy, and it establishes a society based in competition. It establishes a society where there is no such thing as common good. The only thing that is there is the good of the individual. And people like Locke believed that the good of society could be achieved if every individual pursued his own good. So since everybody is pursuing their own good, society is something that also will have good. This is where you see that there is a, this is very Anglophone philosophy, this kind of liberalism it's very Anglophone, and by Anglophone I mean English speaking, and it is something that very clearly states that each individual has to take care of himself. Doesn't emphasize anything like family. It only focuses upon the individual. And starting with Machiavelli, through Hobbes and Locke, there is the absence of ethics and morality. Okay, till Machiavelli, we can talk about ethics perhaps not being very different from morals, but from Machiavelli onwards, that is including Machiavelli, you'll have to say that ethics are very different from morals. Ethics are now derived out of social practices, social ethos, and there is no usage of the term morality. People don't talk about morality, they only talk about ethics. And when ethics are derived out of social ethos, then there is no absoluteness. There is no absoluteness to these ethics, because something that is not permissible in one society may be permissible in another society. So we have relativism setting. So what is ethical for some is not ethical for others. Now it is with Rousseau that you have the beginning of the discourse Please remember the word discourse. Can somebody tell me what is discourse? Anybody? We've been using it.
What, sir? I didn't hear you properly.
What is the meaning of discourse?
Essay or
So,
any piece of writing?
I heard piece of writing. What did you say before that?
Yes, sir. Essay.
Essay? No. But what about spoken discourse?
Debate, sir.
Hmm?
Debate.
Debate.
Hmm.
Akshay, your answers will get solved. Your questions will find answers very soon. Was somebody trying to enter? Yeah. Yeah. Your questions will find answers as we go ahead. Yeah. What were you saying? I think it was Rachna. Sorry, Rachna.
Sir.
Yeah, you were saying something? Debate.
Yes.
No. See, the way we use discourse in everyday language, let me put this here at the bottom so that first let me put by popular speech, what we mean is a speech meant for all members of society, which is an unspecialized thing. Okay. If tomorrow somebody calls me and says, speak about Rousseau, and if I do that, it's not a popular speech because it's not something that everybody relates to. But if you do what Dr., not the original JP Narayan, but if you do what Dr. Prakash Narayan does, this is what he does. Popular speeches, a speech meant for all members of society on a subject which everyone has familiarity. Okay, everyone has familiarity on subjects like corruption in elections, politicians being corrupt. So when you have those kind of popular lectures, they are actually, we used to call them, I don't know if that kind of language is still there. The language we used was Janta lectures, meant for the Janta, for the people. Nothing derogatory. We used to say it's a Janta lecture. Okay. So there's nothing in that where you learn anything specifically new. You won't learn anything specifically new. So that's what it is. And that's what Prakash Narayan thrives on. I don't know. People tell me he had a very good record as a civil servant. But I'm very...
But most of the people in the country are illiterate. No, sir. They should understand.
He doesn't speak to illiterate members, no? He is speaking to people who are, what should I say? He's speaking to people in English. He's not talking to them in their language. Have you ever heard speak in Telugu?
Yes, sir.
Only on television. A lecture outside in Telugu. He hasn't. He hasn't spoken. And believe me, I have done very little field work in my research because I am basically, my specialization is theory. Theory doesn't require theory or philosophy of the political variety, and that doesn't require me to do anything like primary research on the field, empirical research. It doesn't require me, but I have to learn what that is. I have done empirical research, and I have been stunned by how well informed these people that you're referring to as illiterate are. How well informed they are is something which knocked the wind out of me when I heard their arguments. A chap who was selling scrap, okay, selling scrap in Delhi. He said, I was doing a field work and I was trying to find out what his perception of Sheila Dikshit was. Akshay, I think you need to mute. Yeah. Yeah. So when you need to talk, unmute again. Not a problem. I was completely stunned by this man. He must have been in his 50s, slightly elderly, maybe even in his 60s. And I was talking to him about which party he would vote. And he said, though out here now, Dalit is a bad word. I mean, Harijan is a bad word. You have to say Dalit. Though the government of India in 2018 has forbidden the usage of the word Dalit, the government of India has forbidden the usage of the word Dalit because it is degrading, and you have a chief minister of the state who doesn't know that such a law has been passed, who is doing this Dalit Bandhu scheme, and all the 18 lakh people in the state who are Dalits, irrespective of their existing backgrounds, are going to be given 10 lakhs each. Our head of the department is trying to has sent one. He would have sent the other one also to Canada. No scholarship, nothing. Payment out of pocket. Okay. Why does he require 10 lakhs? 10 lakhs for him is a pittance. Absolute pittance. But our man wants to give it. That's a different issue. So what I'm trying to tell you is, so when I was speaking to this man, out here, it's supposed to be, you say Harijan and all that, you get into trouble. Or among Ambedkarites who don't even know that the word Harijan was not, the word Dalit was not even coined by Ambedkar. They don't know that. They don't know that, the meaning that people like me give to that is to say that it is depressed and oppressed sections of society. But otherwise, the literal meaning of that is broken and scattered. If they are broken and scattered, then they are not even living creatures, are they? So that's why we take it as a metaphor. We take it as a metaphor, but the government has banned it. I don't know if the government of India also knows that it has banned it. So here is our man in this state who's giving 10 lakhs each to all Dalit families, irrespective of whatever their social stature. An IAS officer also will get 10
He
lakhs.
will stop giving after Huzurabad election, sir.
Sorry?
He will stop giving after Huzurabad election. It is an election stunt.
So that's it. Okay. Everybody knows our chief minister very well. And you are only proving my point. So if you actually look at, so I met this man. In the north, they don't use the term Dalit. They use the term Harijan. And quite a few members of the scheduled castes who are, what should I say? Quite a few members of the scheduled castes who are below the poverty line and aged, they are very knowledgeable. So I asked this man, who will you vote for? And he said, we will vote for Sheila Dikshit, who was already the chief minister then. And he said, we will vote for Sheila Dikshit. And I said, why would you vote for Sheila Dikshit? He said, because one, she's a very sincere leader. She works for our welfare, like our friend Professor Akshay has pointed out. She's not a chief minister who will say things before the elections and forget them after the elections are over.
When did I say, sir?
Now, just now you said, no?
No,
He'll
sir.
stop giving after Huzurabad elections. Our chief minister.
Yes, sir.
So they know who's who. They very well know who is who. And they said, right from independence, it's only been the Congress party. I was very happy to hear one thing there, which is they said, Gandhi ji, this man said, Gandhi ji ने हमारे लिए बहुत कुछ किया. और स्वतंत्रता के समय हमको भी सारे लोग में मिला लिया. आज शीला दीक्षित जी हमारे लिए काम कर रही है, हम उनको ही वोट डाल देंगे. So I asked at the center, it was the NDA which was in power. So I said, आप अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी को नहीं मानते हैं? बीजेपी को नहीं मानते हैं? He said, नहीं, हम लोग नहीं मानते. ये लोग झूठ बोलते हैं. इनका बोलती एक है और करने वाला चीज और कुछ है. बोलती is speech. That was a stunning, very, very stunning experience. Illiterate. I asked him how, till what level he had education. He had no education at all. And then when I went to another place where they thought I was some policeman and mufti trying to gather information, I told you the story where I left my research questionnaire and everything and said, I'll come back tomorrow, show it to whomever you want. That particular incident, I didn't tell you what happened after I went back, except that they gave me a cigarette and tea. But these were young people, probably just into their 20s. Just into their 20s. And I was talking to them, and this was a time when the India Shining campaign was happening. And I asked them that, is India shining? Do you want foreign capital into this, to come into this country? And the answer that they gave me was amazing. They said we are completely for foreign capital. They knew the fact that a few years before that, the country was going to be bankrupt. They might have just been young boys at that time, but they knew that. They knew that. And they said, we require foreign capital. Let it come, foreign capital. Only thing we want is jobs. Whoever brings the money is not our problem. Foreign company, they kept calling it foreign, calling these what we call multinational companies. They were calling them foreign companies. Foreign companies, let them come. Indians, if they want to invest, let them do that. But what we want is jobs. Job security. He said, we are tired of this life where we work for 5 days and we don't have employment for 10 days. He said, we don't want this. We want job security. India shining. He said, nothing is shining. It's only for the rich. And amazingly, they named Ambanis. अंबानी जैसे लोग के लिए ये सब है, हमारे लिए कुछ नहीं है.
Sir, then why BJP came to power? in 2014, 2018.
No, I'm talking about late 1990s. Lot of things have transpired in between. Lot of things have transpired in between, into which I don't want to go right now. Let's not make it a
Sir, one
class.
question.
Ah.
Which form of the government do you think can build an egalitarian society? Now we can see that democracy is failing. Which form of a government is, do you think, will build an egalitarian society?
There is, in my opinion, there is no form of government that can build an egalitarian society. Good you asked me this question, because that's where I'll come to. There's something about what I'm going to say to your answer. Later it'll come up in Rousseau. I believe in some kind of benevolent dictatorship. A benevolent dictatorship. That is the one that will build an egalitarian society. I seriously don't know what is happening in China, but in the 1980s, China and India were at the same level. But post, or rather, once Deng Xiaoping became the leader, took the initiative, China became a powerhouse in terms of economics. China is way, way ahead of us. I don't know if that money is there only among some people. The other day, sorry about that. The other day, meaning about a week back, this doesn't come in the news. You have to have certain other sources. They're not shady sources. China announced a new education policy of its own, which is much, much better than ours. First thing China said is that there'll be no FDI or FII or Chinese multinationals investing in the education sectors. They spoke about Alibaba. Alibaba Group has several companies, by the way. Okay. So they said Chinese multinationals also cannot invest in education. This policy clearly states, it very, very clearly states that education is the exclusive spending and investment of the government. Only the government and no other. Nobody else even on behalf of the government. They said that leads to profiteering. Education cannot be a source of profiteering. That is what they said. Then they said dropouts. There are dropouts apparently in China. And they said dropouts should be identified and they should also be given skilling. Find out what they can do and equip them with the skills that are necessary for some of the industries or whatever that run in society, to have a specially focused skilling unit. Specially focused skilling unit where you'll impart different kind of skills based upon people's abilities to them. I'm no big fan of China, but this education policy, I'm not going through it more. I want to finish this today. That makes 10,000 times more sense than that idiotic document that Kasturi Rangan produced. That man should be committed to a mental asylum. The Chinese are talking about further push to English education. And they've also said now there is enough pool of Chinese who can teach English. So they said concentrate on that pool and increase the pool of Chinese who can teach in English. Cut out the foreigners. Initially, they relied on foreigners. Most of them came from Hong Kong. That they say is okay. It's part of their country now, but not from England, not from any other places. They want to cut them out. So on the one hand, it does look like an evil force. It does look like a lot of things. But from 1980, if you take that as a beginning, from 1980 to 2020, look at China's achievements and look at India's achievements. We've also had some achievement. I'm not denying that. That is because of Manmohan Singh. Today, people abuse him. It was because of P.V. Narasimha Rao. Nobody talks about him. It was because of Nehru's education system way back then. I told you, I tell all my friends who went as computer programmers to the US to solve the Y2K bug and have settled down there. I tell them, were you educated in the US? You are a product of the Indian education system. Who put that system in place? Nehru put that system in place. Computers, how did they come in? Rajiv Gandhi. Nehru was definitely a visionary. So was Rajiv Gandhi. I told you I met him personally as a topper. And all I could see was sincerity, complete sincerity. He wanted to do something for the country. He is unfortunately a political neophyte, misguided by fellows like Arjun Singh and Narayan Dutt Tiwari, dirty fellows. They ruined him. And to a certain extent, even fellows like Sam Pitroda and Captain Satish Sharma. All wrong advice. Sam Pitroda and Satish Sharma were saying, let us build. It's just this is just one, this thing that I'm giving. An instance is not a true thing. When we didn't even know how to build small little boats. They were trying to tell Rajiv Gandhi that in the next 2 years, let's build huge ships. Sam Pitroda was completely demented idiot. He wanted to introduce cellular telephony in a country where people didn't have landlines, didn't have telephones. There weren't even public phone booths. They came thanks to Rajiv Gandhi. But Sam Pitroda wanted cellular telephones at that time. So all that is my answer to your question is a benevolent kind of a dictatorship, because people need to be disciplined. When I
Sir,
see
did any country ever saw benevolent dictator till now?
Oliver Cromwell came close, but the problem with him was he got so caught up in religion, in Puritanism. He focused so much on Puritanism and neglected other things, but otherwise his intentions were very good. His intentions were very good. I don't know, maybe good things are happening in China. I don't know. Benevolent dictator doesn't have to be one person. The Chinese Communist Party, CPC, maybe it's doing good. I really don't know what is the standard of life of people there, because it's an extremely secretive country. But one thing is there, they have made colossal strides in 4 decades, which no other country has. They're challenging the US now. They are challenging the US now. And we are actually where we are thanks to our having service industry, Again, I go back to the education system. What new policies? Okay, Rajiv Gandhi did bring one new education policy in 1985, which didn't tinker around too much with the education policy that Nehru made. And don't believe that this is Lord Macaulay's education system. It is not Lord Macaulay's education system. It was devised very much by Indians around 1947. There were committees that Nehru constituted. And this Kasturi Rangan idiot is saying that every student should be taught in his mother tongue. So the central school said, what are you saying? What are you saying? In central schools, there are all kinds of people. So if there is one Telugu fellow somewhere, you're going to bring one teacher to teach one fellow? They said, we can't implement this because the reason they gave is that every central school is a mini India. So if you cannot implement that education system in that mini India, how can you put it in to practice in the bigger country? If you can't put it in this much, how will you put it in this much? How will you put it into practice? And people are learning regional languages. People learn regional languages. It's not like people don't know regional languages. They have a 3-language formula. People learn regional languages. And these days, due to mixing of cultures, love marriages and all that, which have increased quite tremendously, children, by the time they are 4 or 5, have become polyglots. They go to school and learn English and Hindi. They know their father tongue and mother tongue. By the time they are 5 or 6, they are speaking 4 languages, which is a good thing. And English is the language. I'm no great fan of English. English is the language in which relevant knowledge exists. Relevant knowledge exists. P.V. Narasimha Rao, as Chief Minister, set up in 1970 the Telugu Academy. What was the purpose of setting up of the Telugu Academy? To translate important works from English into Telugu. What is the Telugu Academy doing today? Publishing textbooks in English. I don't know, they call it English. It is some alien language. Please contact Jadi, Chalamalla, all of them who are in our department. These are the writers of those tremendous books. They are the writers of those tremendous books. They have written textbooks in English. For intermediate. Now, as if the damage that they did for intermediate was not enough. They have gone ahead and created textbooks for degree students. When we were students, in intermediate, we didn't have textbooks. We were given a reading list, go to the library, search them out and read from them. Some topics were not there in some books. Some topics were there in other books. Instead of doing that, you're writing this terrible, factually wrong in a language which is incomprehensible. You're writing these books, damaging society. So we have this wonderful institution called Telugu Academy, which has already demonstrated to us, another one being Urdu Hall. These have demonstrated to us that we cannot basically translate anything from English into any Indian languages. We couldn't translate into Telugu. We couldn't translate into Urdu. So why are you flogging that dead horse? Let people study. There's nothing wrong with the education system. What is wrong with the education system is that people converted universities and other educational institutions into personal fiefdoms. They have appointed people. This fellow will be near my legs. This fellow will sit near my legs. He won't sit in a chair in front of me. So I don't know which is a good system. I don't know. The only reason why I would say I would still prefer a democracy is because of what Nehru said very correctly. It is probably the best insurance against dictatorships, because all dictatorships that we have seen have turned very, very bad. They have turned very, very bad. Mussolini, fascism, Hitler's Nazism, Franco's Spanish dictatorship, General Franco. All these outstanding examples of how dictatorships can go really bad. Can you basically rely upon a person to be good? I don't know. I really don't know. But I do know that even though democracy is a terrible way of ruling, it has been managed pretty intelligently by the Americans. They have put a smoke screen, made the world believe that it's a democracy. It is an oligarchy. That's why they made strides. All countries that have had democracy have gone backward. All of them went back, including England. That's also decaying. Whole of Europe is under decay today, maybe with the exception of Germany and Netherlands and perhaps Finland. But otherwise, whole of Europe is decaying. That is why we were poised to become the third biggest economy, which this pandemic has unfortunately derailed us. And our becoming the third biggest economy is our population dividend. Young population capable of working, computer literate, get anybody from district, give him a computer in 2-3 days, he knows how the computer will work. Send him for training, Java scripts, whatever, send him. Unix, .NET technologies, send him for training. In 6 months, he'll come out doing the job that you can. Donald Trump lost because he put curbs on visas, and the industry there found that the Americans were not capable of doing the work that other people were doing. Other people are mainly Indians. Mainly Indians. So that's why the first thing Joe Biden has done after he has come to power, he said no visa restrictions, no quota for India, no quota for India. Bring. So we've digressed. Sorry. So the commonsensical usage of discourse is a spiritual lecture, which is done either in a church or by a spiritual leader. If you say Bhakti TV, which is what my mother does throughout the day and night, I think, you have all these Chaganti Koteshwar Rao, Garikapati Narsimha Rao, some other Rao. They'll all come and tell you Mahabharata, Ramayana, their own versions. These are all their own versions. They're not there anywhere else. Pravachanas. So that is all spiritual discourse. It doesn't have to be Christian. In the masjids, what they give a speech where the Maulana gives a speech after the Friday prayers, that is spiritual discourse. A long lecture like the one I gave you now is on a particular subject of what is the best form of government. That is a discourse. What Prakash Narayan does is discourse in the commonsensical sense of the term. What is the technical sense? That is a technical term, sense. It is the cultural linguistic concept. Cultural. Please remember again, cultural, not Bollywood night, not rock shows. No. Cultural is social, political, economic. That which is not natural is cultural. Please remember that. Anything that is natural is not cultural. Cultural, the more we go away from nature, the more cultured we become. The more we go away from nature, the more cultured we become. Remember that. So, less natural. And the linguistic. By linguistic, I don't mean the language. Telugu, English, not that. The linguistic context is what do people around him or her say? What do they talk? People who come from families that believe in communalism, people who come from those families, they are the ones who are likely to develop into communally inclined people. Those who are born in casteist families, upper casteist, lower casteist, doesn't matter. If you are born and that is your context, if the casteism around you is your context, that is what you will become. So, discourse refers to that. When we say the discourse of morality, which means that we are now saying Rousseau has started a language, not French, not German, not any of those, a language that has morality in the center of it. It can be German, it can be French, it can be English. Till then, morality didn't exist. Rousseau puts it there. Rousseau puts it there. And the answer uh, city-state, small population. Small population, better control. For the first time in all these days, for the first time I've spoken about democracy in the context of Rousseau. The University Grants Commission says that ideally for every 8 students, there should be 1 teacher. Ideally. Why? Because then the teacher is able to pay attention to the necessities of a particular student. Individual attention becomes possible. If you have a teacher teaching a class of 150 people, that's like a public lecture. It's like a public lecture. If I am the teacher, I wouldn't even remember the names. Those 150 people, if at all they come to class, to my class I'll be very happy if 2 people come. So 150 people, what attention will you give them? What attention will you give them? So how do you educate people about democracy? The virtues of democracy. Today, we have seen so many vices of democracy that we don't see virtues of democracy. Rousseau saw that. What happens? Why do these horrible things come? Rousseau believed in popular democracy and popular sovereignty. Popular here, don't take it as, please forgive me, I don't know who are the film stars of these days. I don't watch films. I do, but I watch only English films. I was waiting for that. Yes, ma'am. Will you let me finish this one point? Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll wind up with this point. We got carried away thanks to Mr. Akshay Puneet. But I don't think questions are a bad thing. I don't see them as distractions. I like questions. Anyway, let me not waste any more time. Rousseau believed in popular democracy and popular sovereignty. By popular, I am not talking about popular as Amitabh Bachchan was very popular in his time. We also have popular lecturers. Some people are more popular than others. And usually the good lecturers are the ones who are the least popular. The ones who are not very good will give you marks and all that. They are the popular ones. So popular in that sense has a negative connotation. But here, when we are using about popular democracy, when we are talking about popular democracy and popular sovereignty, we are talking about so how are we going? This popular democracy doesn't leave anybody out. Everybody is included. All people are included. Power doesn't lie with some sovereign who's outside of the people. It lies within the people. So how do you achieve this? You'll achieve it through a social contract. And what is this social contract? I'll talk to you tomorrow in the morning about it. But please remember one thing. This social contract is not an experimental social contract. This is a real social contract. A real social contract. Nothing in Rousseau is experimental. Nothing is experimental. It's all real. Sorry, I've kept you waiting. I have gone off and doesn't matter. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. I'll
Thank you.
finish. Yeah, there's just 2 points left now. We'll finish that off. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, sir. Good night.
Bye. Good night, Akshay.